$5 million in the first investment, total investment, whatever it takes. Unlike many sovereign funds, we invest solely for return. So we are not an economic development agency. And so if you come to us, please don't count the number of people in Malaysia who have a disease you're trying to cure, because it won't make a difference.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Haru Sugino from Otsuka Pharmaceutical. Otsuka Pharmaceutical is a Japanese pharmaceutical company which doing the global development and commercialization in CNS, neurology, and then nephrology space. And they're also doing the business of the hemato-oncologists. And then we are doing the in-licensing deal at this moment, and we don't have a funding arm, but we consider one by one, case by cases, and then we have experience in the past to do the investment, like equity investment, and then also the non-dilutive grant type of investment as well. And as a stage of the licensing, we are looking for the IND ready in next 1 to 2 years to the phase 1, phase 2 stage of the programs. I belong to the global business development, so that's a stage for BD. But we have another team called the scientific partnership team, and then they are looking for the research collaboration and the much earlier preclinical drug discovery collaboration. So if there is any early stage opportunity, then I can connect to that team. And then for the region, we are always looking for the global development opportunities, but we have a development team for the global US, EU, and Japan. So we are happy to discuss the US opportunities, EU opportunities, or even the Japan only or Asian opportunities. And for Japan market, addition to the CNS and nephrology space, we are looking for the GI, ophthalmology, dermatology, and cardiovascular programs as a licensing and investment opportunities. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tianla Riedens. I'm coming from Mitsubishi Tanabe. Mitsubishi Tanabe is also one of the very traditional classic pharmaceutical company from Japan. The headquarters are in Japan, Osaka. But for the past 15-20 years, we are trying very hard to expand our presence globally, especially in North America, of course, US, also Canada. So currently in US, I belong to the US BD team. We're located in New Jersey, Jersey City. Besides that, we also have a venture arm, which is located in Boston. So we also have a research center in California, also some vaccine development in Canada. So as for the partnership, because we have a venture arm in Boston, we also have very similar structure. We have a collaboration, scientific collaboration team, also the BD team. So we pretty much kind of cover from very early stage of investment to late stage after like a POC licensing in. So when we deal with new opportunities, people like from my group, like me, we come to the conference and explore the opportunities. And depending on the territory of the asset, also the stage of the asset, we then separate the asset. I think the opportunities to different team members. So therapeutic area wise, we are also focused on the CNS area. That's very important. In US, we have one drug approved 2 years ago, which is Radicava for ALS. We also have pipeline in Parkinson's disease. Therefore, we want to strengthen our area in the CNS therapeutic area. Besides that, we're also very interested in the rare disease, which give us like broader opportunities to explore and look for the partnership. So very nice to meet you this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Howland Song. I'm from Chaperone Investment. I'm a biochemist by training, and then got my a venture capitalist after my MBA. I've been doing venture capital in Asia for more than 10 years. So now I'm with Chaperone Investment. Chaperone Investment is an early stage investment fund. We invest in from seed stage to angel stage, anything before Series A. So what we do is we invest a broad border of life science sector, so from therapeutics, medical device, not really medical AI or med tech, but anything other than that. We help our investment portfolio companies to not just investment, but also help them strategically on top of that, from business development, future fundraising, get them ready to be and dress them up to present to our future strategic investors for Series A. So what we do is not just investment, but we also have a consulting arm to do that. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Xiao Yu. I work as VP for FC Capital. FC Capital is a Shanghai-based VC. We are managing $150 million equivalent. It's a dual currency fund, so we have USD and Chinese RMB components that allows us to invest both within and outside of China. The fund is only 2 years old and with offices in Shanghai, Boston, and Taipei. So I'm head of our Boston office in charge of sourcing deals from North America and Europe. We are set up as a healthcare and life science focused VC, so we are looking at everything under the healthcare umbrella, from biotech, pharmaceutical to devices, diagnostics, and digital health. Typically, we are looking to invest in companies in Series A or B rounds. The average check size is from 3 to 5 million, and we are a 10-year-old fund. So we are patient with our portfolio companies. And because our founders come from a drug development background, one of our founders has over 15 years of experience with Paracel, the drug developer. So we are naturally experienced with drug development and regulatory affairs, and we can help our portfolio companies to go through clinical trials and registration and even market channels in China. And this is our strategic angle we can bring to the table. Although this is not a requirement for our investment, we are a financial investor essentially, and we like to work with our company at a very early stage and help them explore both international and Chinese markets. Myself, I'm a physician by training. I've been working in the venture and startup world for the past 6 years, and very excited to be here.
Okay, thanks everybody. As you can see, we have a broad mixture of financial and strategic investors. We have investors who are very early stage to essentially my favorite, the no-risk venture capital investor, which would be us. And so what we're going to do is talk amongst each other, and hopefully you'll join in, about things that, how we look at deals and how we look at the process. And hopefully we will not bore you with platitudes about having a great team and about, you know, being first in class and having unmet medical need. We're going to try to talk more about the nuts and bolts, about how we approach deals. And so the first thing I want to start with, because some of you I assume have been pitching in those lovely 30-minute sessions at the small round tables. So the first question is, when you get approached, whether it's at a meeting like this or the blind email from somebody who claims to be your friend that you've never met before, what makes you likely to respond, and what makes you likely to delete the message without responding at all? And so we'll start going down the row, and then hopefully we'll just go back and forth.
Yeah, I will start first. So, averagely, in 1 year, we averagely evaluate around 700 to 800 opportunities. And then current evaluation team is around 10%, so there's quite a lot. And then as we receive the email and then we try to make a connection at the BD conference. Unfortunately, our, how to say, the perception of Otsuka in US and EU is not so great. So some people don't know. So we need to proactively visit Boston, New York, San Francisco to make a new connection. But if we, in case we receive the email or meeting request through the one-on-one matching system, we really appreciate if they send us a message that they check what our area of interest is, and then give us the clear, how to say, the direction, why we have a synergy with the biotech company's program and our organization. And that message will give us aware, and then we'd like to meet those companies first. That's that's obvious. And the second, we try to do the database review very deeply, like using the Cortelius and checking whether there is any interesting program. And in that case, we proactively try to contact them. So if they send us a meeting request, then definitely we accept meetings. That's the situation.
So, because we represent our company, so I think the most important part is whenever I receive opportunity, I will look at whether it fits our interest of therapeutic area. Usually, because we are majorly focused on CNS and a rare disease, if the asset, the company is focused on a very similar area, I would like to learn more about it. And the stage-wise, usually it's not that much big deal because a lot of companies may be at very early stage. However, if it represents some really new novel technology, I want to learn more. And if it fits our strategy, I can share that with our venture arm. If it's later, I will keep it for myself. If it's for, like territory-wise, it's also, if it is for the Asian part, I can share with other team. So I think really just the indication therapeutic area needs to match our own interest.
So to me, several things I noticed from receiving a cold call, email, or just a quick conversation. If you can be concise, but very, very specific about where you're going, what you're doing, and what is the benefit, and what is the investment thesis for us, that will be very eye-catching. I find something very, very useful is if the company that send us a short notes, including some very, very simple non-confidential slides for us, make it easier for us to review. That would be very appreciated. Also, if you can present it into a manner that what journalism like to call 5W1H, what is the problem, how you're going to attack the problem, and why you're going to be successful in solving this problem. I think this is a manner that easier for the reader to read what you're trying to offer here, and then that's how I will be more likely to accept those kind of invitation rather than just randomly throw me a big page of essay. Nobody has been too much time to read the essay. That's to me.
I think the reality of being in the VC world is you get a lot of inbound requests all the time, and not just cold emails, but also from your investor friends, from consultants, from your portfolio companies who happen to know somebody. So we have to prioritize some way. And the truth is, like, if you are just cold calling or like sending emails without context, it's very easy to get ignored. So I would say, like, it's always good to go through someone in the investor's circle, either through a referral or like if you can get to know their co-investors, that would be even better. But I would say, like, I would still take emails or like even LinkedIn messages, and I will look at their technology and trying to determine whether there will be a fit. Like, even I don't know the person before. But I would say, like echoing Hao-Lin's point, like if you can provide more information, the better. So I would know like what is the context. If you are just sending a note saying that this is an exciting investment community opportunity, and I will I will provide more details once you sign an CDA. Then this is end of discussion. I won't do any further discussion with you because I just don't have time. But if you can send me a non-confidential slide deck with a little background of the science and also the team, that would also be helpful for me to start a conversation with you.
So I want to follow up on that a little bit. In my view, right, either you have intellectual property protection or you don't. If you don't, go away, because we can't get that through our review committee. If you do, ask yourself why you're making me sign an NDA. Because nobody cares about your financial projections except you and a potential investor. If you're looking for venture money, you're not in the market, and so you're not giving away the secrets of your economics. So I think that's a really important point. Send the damn non-confidential deck and leave out, you know, your social security number, your mother's maiden name. We don't need that. But it's this sort of, in my perspective, I don't know how you guys feel, being coy doesn't buy you anything. I don't need to be teased. I need to have information. And we're mid to late stage investors, so we need to know how much you've raised to date and how much you're raising in the future. And if that's too much secret to share in an email, I don't know how we get past that. So I don't know how, we get, not as many as you guys actually do, but we have to be able to look at something and then tell our colleagues, this is a company that's at this stage and does this for this disease. And it's in one sentence. And if you can't say that, like, we're going to have to do too much work. Now, I don't know what you guys think about that.
I totally agree. But just the one small thing is, even sometimes for the rare disease, if you don't have the IP, but because of the ODD, sometimes still has value.
Yeah, that's correct. And then also, we have internal research ongoing, so we need to do the conflict check before we will sign the CDA. From that perspective, we need information as much as possible. Otherwise, just a target indication, then no disclosure around the MOA related, then it's very difficult to proceed further.
Yeah, I totally agree. We are from the investor side, so we're not trying to steal your technology. We don't have the capability to steal it. Even you send me the whole clinical protocol, I can't repeat it. So send us things that we know and convince us why we should invest, especially when we are doing very early stage. You can send me the rationale of your animal model. I think a lot of animal model that doesn't make sense when you go out to pharma like that. And then you realize that, oh my God, this animal model, they don't look at that model. So you send me something that is irrelevant. But we may not necessarily have the knowledge to know by our end. We need to seek for our outside consultant. When we do that and then come back with a very bad review, then your chance might pass. We never look at your case again. So send something essential, relevant, and then help us to make decisions.
If we could, like, maybe just a kind of light, first of all, how many CEOs are there in the room? Show of hands. Okay. Because the funny thing that we think about is we're looking at the company and we're looking at the chief sales rep for the company, who is sort of the same person. And so we're looking for a little bit of salesmanship skills. And nobody sells anything by hiding the product for 2/3 of the conversation, right? So I don't know, what drives you the craziest?
Yeah, I would say if you just keep pushing for signing a CDA and without disclosing anything useful, it's very hard to continue the conversation. But on the other hand, I've met quite a few like scientists, entrepreneurs. They will send me tons of their publications, like pages and pages, and from 1990s to today. And that's also quite a lot of information overload. Like back into your point of being a salesmanship, like this is, we are looking for an entrepreneur who is able to communicate concisely and who are able to catch our interest. Because if you are able to catch an investor's interest, we can trust that, that in the future when you are interacting with your potential customers or with pharma partners, that you will be able to carry out the conversation efficiently.
Okay, from my point of view, maybe you guys have encountered this kind of situation. Maybe it's just because we are in a very early stage. I'm very afraid of talking to inventor or the star CEOs that from a science background. They are excited, enthusiastic about their science, and too much that there's no discussion. Even though in their own pitch there's a market analysis on competition, you point out what is your advantage over this competition. They're still sticking on their science. I know you love your science. I know it's great. It's the best thing in the world. But maybe there's something out there you've not noticed. And then, speaking about salesmanship, I think some of the scientists are too into the science rather than business case. You great science, but it doesn't really transform into business naturally. So what's your business plan and what's your strategic angle going after to the market? It's not just about you having a great science, it's about plan, execution, development, and strategy. So that's something I'm a little bit, it's driving me crazy when I talk to inventors that all about how great the science is. That's one thing. The second thing is, this maybe happened also in the early stage that when we talk to a lot of scientists, they want to start their company. Great scientist doesn't equals to great CEOs. So one thing that if you can do it, hire someone or have a team to help you. I often encounter, maybe this is in Asia, but I often encounter when I go to academic to talk to professors, they have great technology, they want to start their own business. And ask them who's going to be a CEO. They just point at one of the PhD students and tell them, that's going to be my CEO. That's not going to work. He doesn't have any business training yet. And maybe he's not even out of academic ever in his life. So how am I going to trust this person to lead the whole company? So that's something that drives me crazy as well. If you don't really have a plan, strategy, and team in mind.
Yeah. Actually, I totally agree with you guys' opinion, but I have some very different, I think, feeling about this. I think the thing I really don't like is if I feel the companies oversell their point. Maybe because this is I represent a pharmaceutical company. We have we're really scientific oriented, so we don't mind reading a lot of paper. But if the company come and say, oh, this is really cutting edge technology would totally change the game of this therapeutic area. And I'll say, like, our drug is this good, efficacy is so good, such good penetration, and everything is fit as a drug so well. And later on, when you look at the data, you realize it totally doesn't match what they say. This just makes me feel like not trusting the company anymore. Like feel like all the enthusiasm and the time spending probably was a waste. So that's my personal feeling is this is the thing I really don't like and drives me crazy.
And I think, we all sometimes are busy, and so we tend to send the same email out over and over again. I don't know if this kills deals, but sloppiness annoys the hell out of me. Because if you're sloppy with a pitch, you can be sloppy with your science, you're going to be sloppy with your IP, and your financials aren't going to add up. So having an email that's addressed to me that says, "Dear company name," is really not going to win, right? Those just get deleted. No one can pronounce the name of the fund I work for, but you ought to be able to spell it right. And we're all looking for the same thing, right? We're looking for, I think, right, to know if it's a fit for us. Because I don't think any of us, and you guys don't interrupt me here, are gonna change our investment strategy for you, right? We have limited partners who want us to invest in certain things. So if you can't tell us and we can't find a fit early, you're not gonna change us, right? And I think that's a really, I know you guys are different, but in sort of the next round of questions, I want to talk a little bit about Asia. Okay, so how important, when you make an investment review, are Asian markets or presence in Asia or maybe disease prevalence in Asia? Because we all represent predominantly Asian markets. Anybody want to sort of jump in on that one?
I will just quickly address that. As I mentioned, we are a financial investor essentially. So Asia market will be something that will be added value. We like to leverage our resources in Asia to help these companies to get to the market faster. But this is not a deal breaker for us. We have invested in a couple of early stage companies in the US, which are in preclinical stage, still far away from phase 1 trial even. So for them to talk about regional rights, it's just too early. So we are patient and we like to support them until the time is right. But we always keep in mind that like what is the potential in Asia and whether this product is going to sell. Like for example, it may be much easier to sell a drug product in Asia, and maybe a cancer drug can be a very easy sell. But compared to maybe a healthcare service management system, that will be very cultural specific, and it may be successful in the US, but very hard to translate into China. That would be something that we would avoid. So this is something that is in our mind, but it's totally not a deal breaker for us.
I think different funds have different strategy. To us, it's not really necessary, but it's a plus. So, for example, one of my partners, he is in medical imaging business for 35 years in Asia. So if you come to me having a very new, brand new MRI solution or something in ultrasound, I think my partner will be very, very excited. But it's not really a necessary thing for us to do. But sometimes we have to take care of our LP. So something that aligns with our LP business, that's a plus. That's to us.
Yeah, as Otsuka, the pharma company, especially for early stage investment, we are always looking for the global opportunities. But on the other hand, we try to explain that we can differentiate. We know how to develop in Asia and Japan. So in addition to the US and EU market, we can expand the value of the program, adding how to develop in Asia. So that we saw for the early investment instead of just focus on the Asian territory.
Very similar to.
Because, I mean, are there device people here and diagnostic people? Okay. Many? All you guys are like drug people. Because you don't do a lot, you guys don't do a lot of devices, right?
This is a therapeutic track is the reason you're not seeing
We have a device department as well.
Okay. So when we look at things, right, it's a little bit product-centric. We like people, particularly in big market therapeutics and for devices certainly. You sort of have to have a strategy for Asia because the economics don't work if you leave, half the planet out of your marketing plan. So it's something to think about, I guess. When I want to talk a little more about the nuts and bolts of it. When you start looking at a company, how long does it take you to make up your mind?
I would say like it takes a week or so to decide whether to dive deeper, and then it takes a month to go through our internal process.
Do you always take board seats?
It depends on the deal.
We We take longer. It take me probably a month to decide. Well, we have a decision in mind, and then we going after the due diligence process to see if that anchors our assumptions. If we find anything red flag, then obviously can't do it. But to me, there's some process I want to highlight that maybe we are doing things a little differently. We like to work with the entrepreneur on the side of their projects as well. So we like to see the mentality of the entrepreneur. Sometimes I feel in curveballs. Sometimes other people give you problems, and I like to see how entrepreneur overcome that problem, because I believe there's no perfect product, but there's a good team. So a good team can really bring the product, even that's not perfect. The company's not perfect. They can always pivot into a successful story. So I like to see that mentality from the entrepreneur more. So now I take more time to evaluate.
So do you mean make up my mind or make up my company's mind?
The company's fine.
Okay, so it takes not much longer. So when I got an opportunity, pretty much we have process to do it. When I make my mind, probably a few days. I know whether I want to do it or not do it. But the whole process for the company, it can easily go from 6 months to 10 months. That's for success. But of course, if you want to make, say like stop the evaluation, that can be very quick probably. But really trying to make the deal will take a longer time.
Yeah, our ultimate goal is to evaluate non-confidential package in 1 month, and complete the due diligence on the CDA, and then make a deal in the next 3 months. That's our ultimate goal, but in past our deal takes more than that. Actually, 6 months is the average. Always there is a going back and forth, and we need to get that approval from the board, and if there is any financial condition changes, and then that will easily delay the one month, because we only have a board meeting once every month. So there is a lot of space that we can try to reduce, and then we always discussing that let's create a funding organization that can make a more quick decision, so that only that steering committee make a decide and then can make the deal much quicker. But it's still only in a discussion level, and then it didn't happen yet.
So I want to stop for a second.
How do you answer your question, Bruce?
Oh, my question?
Yeah, how does it take you?
It can take forever. No's usually come quickly, right? Our normal process is supposed to be about sort of 3 to 4 months. If we have to lead, it takes longer. I think that's a common problem, because of, mostly not because we can't make up our mind what the price is, but there's more internal approval. We also, even though we're a venture fund, we have the final approval is once a month. And if the package to go to the investment committee isn't ready, it's no extensions. It's a big organization, right? And I think people familiar with the American venture community have this notion that, you know, 2 partners can make a decision and standing in front of the cappuccino machine. And the more corporate you get, the more you think, you know, you're flexible and you're light. But there's something in our process that says this only meets once a month. They don't change their mind about when the meeting is. They need the paperwork 2 weeks in advance, and if you miss it, it's sort of another month. And I think that's common among all of the sort of sovereign funds, most corporate funds, is, and increasingly some venture funds, not family office. Can we stop for a second? We have a lot more things to ask the panel, but are there questions, you guys? You came here for a reason, not just because you felt like taking a sauna at 4 o'clock. Yeah.
I have a question. Our platform is totally out of favor, or any other questions?
Platforms?
Platform technologies.
I think we're going to have some differences there. I don't like them, but it has more to do with the review process. because someone's going to have to, we're going to be asked, where's the first revenue coming from, and can we believe in that market? And if you have a drug development platform that doesn't have a candidate, it may be brilliant, but we can't answer that question. And if we can't answer that question, we can't get it through an investment committee. And I think that's the, it feels like that's the fashion today, but I think it's different for different folks. What do you guys think?
I like platforms, but the key is I want to know your plan, how you're gonna bring this platform to milk all the revenue out of it. So what's the first priority you're gonna focus on? And then what's coming up next? Why you do this? You do this because it's quicker to market, you want to improve your platform strategy? Or why is the rationale behind why you're taking each step doing this platform, with this platform? So where are you going after with this platform? Are you going to sell it, or are you going to sell it individually to different buyers? So I want to know more about that. It's not about I love platform or not. I just want to know how you're going to, what you're going to do with this platform.
For us, actually we like both, and we take a different strategy. In biotech, we like companies with a platform technology, with multiple assets in the pipeline, so we can make sure when we make a bet, there will be multiple inflection point down the road, and once the lead product, if it fails, we have something to fall back on. But in terms of medtech, it's hard to develop a platform really. So we are looking just at the market size and really to determine whether this investment makes sense. We wouldn't expect a big platform coming out of a device or therapy or diagnostic.
As a pharma company, we always have the interest to the technology platform, and then we invest for the specific target program as a research collaboration. And then if the technology platform is not completely new, innovative technology that our internal research institute do not have, then we definitely consider the, how to say, acquisition opportunity as well.
Yes, so for us, our venture arm does pay attention to the platform, and also our collaboration team constantly work with the good platform which fits our strategy, in the drug pipeline.
Okay. Were there other questions from the audience before? Sure. Okay. There's one back there. Oh, sorry. I see your hand. Thank you.
I just want to ask a quick one as far as for your particular companies and funds, when you're defining Asia in terms of your area of interest, how far across the continent does that actually go? The reason I ask is, for example, we're a US-based company, but we're doing most of our initial work in Bangladesh and then going to be expanding mostly through South Asia. So in terms of, obviously, most of you come from companies in East Asia. So when you're thinking about Asia, are you mostly focused on the East Asia and Southeast Asia market, or does it extend across most of the continent?
For our company, majorly we're considering Japan, we're a Japanese company, also South Korea, China. Those are the major three, I think, area.
Yeah, Otsuka saying Japan and the East Asia, and then we try to expand that to the India and Australia. We have an office, but it's still in the middle of our expansion activities.
For us, it's mostly China when we're looking at, and maybe some areas where we have partners. For example, Korea, we have a few co-investors in Korea, so we can leverage that. But the rest of Asia, we don't have much interest.
Maybe because the symbol of this panel, probably when we think of Asia as East Asia. So our strength is also in East Asia. So Japan, Korea, Taiwan, China, and including Southeast Asia, not so much in Middle East and India. But that's just what we can do. Our capabilities in that region.
So I want to go back to the panel for a second. What is it in the process you go through that when you made a decision that you like it and you want to pursue it, and you're doing the work and you're in diligence and you may or may not have signed a CDA, what's most likely to kill a deal? And sort of what advice does that drive? Anybody wants to?
Yeah, what due diligence, one is that we need we are a data-driven company, so if it's in a preclinical, then we want the active comparator that can show the what's the differentiation point compared to the existing approved drug. And if it's a completely new efficacy that can solve the unmet needs, then what's the rationale behind the model? So we pretty much looking for the in vivo model as a key data. And then if it's moving to the clinical stage, of course, if there is a active comparator, which we need for the EU regulatory requirement, and then there is a significant improvement, that's good. But other than that, if there is a good transparency that all the necessary data is included in a data room, maybe in a virtual data room, then there's no big issue around that.
So I think basically the whole process is trying to find the red flags in this route. So many reasons can kill the project. But the major thing, like very quick reasons, could be like the IP issue and the scientific. Like I mentioned before, we realize it's totally overselling. It's not like that good. The data doesn't really fulfill what they claim. That could quickly kill the project.
I want to throw in some different perspective. Data is important, I know. Science is important. But for us investors, especially I come across a lot of Asian investors. This is something maybe I can share with you. Asian evaluate costs very different from the US or Westerners. So a lot of our investors, especially my LP, when we look at how the company spend the money, and we have very different concept on cost. For example, if you're asking me to invest, and then when I look at your costs, and when you travel, you always fly business class, and when you're a startup, that doesn't make sense to us. So when you say you need $3 million to carry this drug to R&D, a lot of Asian investors, they have in mind that I can do this cheaper in China. So why do you need $3 million when I can do it with $1.5 million? Money is very different. The money value is very different in these two regions. And if you want to ask for investment from Asian investors, this is something I will share with you that may be good to keep in mind that Asian investors, they don't spend money like that. I understand you want to attract talents and all that, but just different mindset. To me, another thing is coachability. We invest in a very, very early stage. We want our investment company to be coachable, or at least listen to what we're trying to give you advice for. So sometimes maybe if you're very excited about your direction and your science, but maybe from our experience, it's just not applicable in the real world. So it's a mutual trust process. So you trust us, I trust you. We're trying to bring this into a second stage. So coachability is something that we evaluate very, very heavily.
So for us, the biggest deal breaker is probably data. So either scientific data or like market size estimate and competition. A lot of time when we enter due diligence, the company told us that they are one of the only players in the space. But later we find out there are actually multiple competitors, and there are like companies in China, in Japan, they are already on the market and selling very well. And that will be very hard for us to continue the discussion. And it feels like the company doesn't know the marketplace well enough, or they are hiding some information from us. So this will be very challenging for us to continue.
So I think it's an interesting mixture of data and people. I think for us, actually, it's the single thing that most commonly kills a deal is we fall out of love with the CEO. And it's probably too much information. It's kind of like a marriage. It's only going to go downhill, right? And so it's the idea that it's the what appears to the CEOs to be incredibly annoying, asking the same question over and over again, which we do a lot, having sort of animated discussions, and through that process, we see CEOs who get exasperated too easily, who get grumpy, because it's all these things that says we're not going to have pleasant board meetings. And she's not going to be able to sell the product to anybody if she can't sell it to us, because customers have the same attention deficit disorder we all do. And so I don't, you said before, right, some of programs fail. We wouldn't be in this business if we didn't know that. But we get stuck on the CEO particularly, and then the team, right? And I think that's really something to think about when you all decide who you're sending out to represent the company. Because the founding scientific genius who thinks that if only he was sitting by the phone when the Nobel Committee called him, he would have gone to Stockholm, they're not helpful. And they're very easy to fall out of love with because they're the ones that get stubborn and annoying. So we are essentially out of time. We've got 2 minutes left. I want to, if anybody has questions.
I'd like to, just maybe you could share some insights in how you establish the collaboration relationships in the countries that are of interest. So you're a company successfully getting started in the US, but you have really no inside information, say, in China. What would you advise?
So from our perspective, our advice is having a few trusted partner that can work with you, either as consultant, advisor, or even better as your investor. And they will become your eyes and ears on the ground. And they can help you identify real players in China, and especially trustworthy ones. And it's very important. For a lot of US startups, it's quite scary place, and it's hard to identify loopholes or pitfalls. So I would say build your own personal trusted network first, and then go with that.
So I was going to ask you guys the question of, tell us a story. What's the very best investment that you've made personally for your organization, and why?
So I fully agree with other panelists that we need a long-time relationship, and for the pharma drug discovery, it needs a long time. So one of the good successes is alliance with Lundbeck. So, our first contact with Lundbeck is 2005, and then at that time we have no presence in EU. And the reality, we made a final deal with them is in 2012. So in those 7 years, we keep meeting, even there's no good matching program, but just keep the good relationship. So we know their head of BD and their culture. Just go to the dinner, they speak general stuff. And then with those kinds of good relationship, we know them. So when we had that program in phase 3, we definitely contact them, and then they accept our offer.
For us, I think 2 years ago, when our drug, ALS drug, got approval, almost at the same time, we also acquired the company from Israel for the Parkinson's disease deal. I think that I think the timing-wise and therapeutic-wise is really very helpful for us to really stand like a straight and solid in U.S. So I think that's a really good move. Kind of set up, I think, a role for us to show the U.S. market. That's Mitsubishi Tanabe in U.S. That's what we want to do, because that actually makes it easier for the future when the BD team trying to reach out. They consider us as an expert in the CNS area. So strategically for the long term, I think it's a really good move.
For me, it's not really just about the financial return. One of the company I invested in, they went IPO in Taiwan, so financially they're good for us. But it's really about the partnership. So a lot of companies I invested in, we eventually become partners. They become my network to consult when I come into different areas. So for example, there's a company, the team has been doing antibodies for more than 7 years. When I ever encounter some antibody projects, I know that we can help them because that team will help me to help them to develop that cell line, manufacturing, CMC, going to at least claim the IND and going to clinical trial. And then we have another partner that specializes in clinical trial that he will be willing to jump in and help to guide the clinical protocol. So to me and my fund, it's really about the partnership. When we invest, the whole portfolio companies become one. We all work together, and that's what we're going after.
I'm going to be very brief, but one of our I would say, because this is a 2-year-old fund, so right now most of our portfolio companies, we haven't had an exit yet. But the one I can say is a company from Switzerland that we invested in called Celestia. And we came in when they first went out for an institutional round. We did a substantial due diligence on them. They are developing a small molecule cancer therapy. It was preclinical when we came in, and they are now moving smoothly into phase 1, almost completed. We just have an update meeting this morning, and they are also going out and raising their Series B, and it's halfway down, and the valuation is substantially increased. And we are pretty excited about the team and also their fundraising status. And we are pretty confident that they will be able to close the round by the end of the year. So far, the clinical data looks pretty great, consistent with our due diligence findings. So I think this is also a way for us to build our diverse network and to have a portfolio around the world.
Okay, I want to thank you all. I want to thank my panels for joining us. I think it's been a terrific discussion. We're going to stand here until they throw us out if you want to come and say hello. Thank you all very much.